Thank you and welcome to the show today. The topic this morning is a revisit of an earlier topic that we did with Richard Simon. The title of what we'd like to do today is Life After Death Row. Many of you might recall that quite recently we had Mr. Simon on this show dealing with his life on death row. The very fact that he was incarcerated in the Tennessee prison for 26 years, and about 16 of them on death row. And now he is out of the prison, and we have been fortunate enough to have him as our guest. And of course, Mr. Richard Simon, let's give our audience an opportunity to know a little about you, because I think that the last time you gave us some statements about your background and et cetera. But give us a few statements in reference to that, and let us also remind the viewers, if we did not do so, that you are visually impaired. And so, but within that framework, let's talk about some of the things that we talked about, moving toward you being off death row and eventually moving into the general prison population prior to being released.
Okay. Well, if my memory serves me correct, Doctor, first let me thank you for inviting me back, because this topic and this stuff that we're talking about is very important to a lot of people. It's just not my story. It's a story for a lot of families who have some kids or parent or somebody who's involved in this type of lifestyle. So I'm telling it, but it seems to be everybody's story nowadays. Everybody knows somebody who's been incarcerated, who's had some problems. And I think last where we left off, I had recently got off death row. In 1995, I was fortunate enough to get some relief on my sentence. They vacated my death sentence into a life sentence up under a law called the Middlebrooks issue, about the aggravating circumstance opposed to mitigating circumstances, which mean basically they saw some good in me opposed to the act that I did. They didn't judge me just on one act. They just said, okay, due to the criteria, he might get better.
This is when you went into the system at 19 years of age.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so I was blessed enough to get some relief on my death sentence. After, as you said, after 16 years of being incarcerated, thinking I was going to die. So you can imagine that was a big joy for me and my family. But sadly, it was like, you know, we hear the word transition. I had to transition from being on death row, living by myself in a confined environment, to the general population. It was a big change for me because, you know, on death row was a small amount of people. In population, you got a lot of people coming in and out. It's a different mindset. And so, not to complain, but it took me a while to adjust from being
on death row.
Yeah, worrying about dying opposed to getting off. And when we was talking earlier, you asked me to explain what it's like to be on death row. It's an unreal experience, because quietly you don't want to die. No one think they want to die. Now, what we talk about on the yard and among our friends, ego and pride say, I'm not afraid. But many people are afraid of death because it's like the unknown. And I was one of those people who got in trouble when he was 19 to say I was worthless. I didn't want to buy into that. I still want to be a good person, the person I was, not based on the things that I did. With that said, I really privately tried to come to grips with who I was and try to represent who I was. That's one of the things about having spirituality in your life. You learn that you're not here to serve your own desires, you're here to serve God. And I got in trouble serving my own self. So I had gotten away from that and trying to be a better person. Regardless of my situation being on death row and in prison, I still wanted to be able to tell my family, my friends, be worthy of someone's praise, other than just be worrying about being a problem child or problem family member. So when I got off death row in May of 1995, it was an enlightening experience, but it also, you know what I mean, it was like the sign that comes with being on death row, they think you're the worst of the worst.
Okay, good.
And so when you be on death row, people perceive you as something that you're not. They're just going on what they don't know. And they think that, oh, he must be bad because he's on death row. Nah, I just call it a bad break, and you know what I mean, the jury, based on the evidence they had, they gave me the lecture. It had nothing to do with who I was or that kind of stuff. I just was a guy that got in trouble. And so when going through population like that, you know, it was kind of tough because not being around a bunch of people and not really knowing how to do time had a lot of conflicts. You know what I mean? Because when you got ego and anger problem, somebody else has them. There ain't a whole lot to talk about. You know what I mean? Everybody know what we talking about, so let's do what we do. So after going through that for a lot of time, I just got tired, man. It got to the point where I got tired of lifting weights because people think because you in shape or whatever, you're trying to project the image. So I said, well, no, I don't want to be big and swole no more. I just quit lifting weights because it's causing me so much problem. That's what general population is all about.
Richard, let's stop here, right here for this first commercial break, after which we'll come back and deal with the same issue, and only after this short commercial break. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short break. Show for today.